Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bastions and Basilisks. I am Kalvin.
I'm Brandon.
And this episode we're going to be talking about bards. I switched up my camera. I mirrored it specifically so that you could read my Vile Villain shirt, because Dimension 20 is awesome. Which you can actually watch the shorter ones, like Escape from Bloodkeep, which is their, R.R. Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, like Lord of the Rings themed one. They're little, I think they're called side quests is what they call them, or like usually like 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And it still gets you the feel of Brandon's amazing DMing style. So today we're going to be talking about Bard. So Bards get D8 hit points. They get armor proficiency of light armor. They are proficient in simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, and short swords. They get 3 musical instruments of their choice as tool proficiencies. They're proficient in dexterity and charisma saving throws. And for skills, they can choose any 3, which I really like. There are parts of Bard that I like. We established what I dislike about Bards last time during Barbarian.
Yeah.
I feel like Bards are essentially not quite like you learn from the streets, because that implies some level of criminal activity or whatever, but like that's the that makes sense why they're the jack of all trades. It's because like they're essentially wizards that got their education from life almost, whereas wizards get their education from books and university. which I'm okay with that, but everybody plays the bards as terrible.
90% of the same thing.
So they're spellcasters, obviously. We're not gonna go over that.
You get Bardic Inspiration.
Bardic Inspiration. So I figured I would, since we accidentally started a trend, I'll work through this one, and then since Blood Hunter's your favorite, you'll do Blood Hunter, and then we could just alternate back and forth essentially.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
That way I'm not always hogging the limelight.
This is not something I worry about.
It's true. So Bardic Inspiration. You can inspire others through stirring words or music. To do so, you use a bonus action on your turn to choose one creature other than yourself within 60 feet of you that can hear you. Okay, the most important part that I think some people forget, and one of the only negatives of Bard, is other than yourself. Because,
oh wow.
Yeah.
I never realized you couldn't do it.
They
yourself.
can't Bardic inspire them. They can't inspire themselves apparently. So having 2 bards is super useful because they can inspire each other, but they can't inspire themselves. The creature gains 1 Bardic Inspiration die, which is a D6. And mind you, a Bardic Inspiration is different from the normal Inspiration. Normal Inspiration is you choose it before you roll, and you get advantage on that roll. Bardic Inspiration is different, mainly because it's not, you get advantage, but also you get to choose after you rolled, but before the DM tells you whether or not you succeed or fail, to whether or not you use it. So if you roll really good, it's actually almost better, because it's like, usually you're like, all right, I roll with inspiration, and you roll twice, and they're both 20s. You're like, okay, cool, fantastic. That was a waste of, but with this, you're like, I got a 17, but I might die. Like, I'm not going to waste it. Like, I probably, whatever the difficulty was, like, once within the next 10 minutes, the creature can roll the die and add the number rolled to one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw it makes, which is pretty much everything. Creature can wait until after the D20, which I just said. Must decide before the GM. Once the Bardic Inspiration die is rolled, it is lost. The creature can have only 1 Bardic Inspiration die at a time. There are some other. I think Eloquence actually is one of the ones that, if you fail to roll, you get it back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think there's one. I want to say it's official. I could be thinking of one of the ones that's like UA, but I think there's one that essentially it's like if you fail the roll, then you don't lose it essentially, which is actually really cool. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of once, which is important, especially for the bard in the game that I'm playing in, who only has like a 10 charisma.
Wow.
Yeah, you regain any expended uses when you finish a long rest. Your Bardic Inspiration die changes when you reach certain levels in this class. The die becomes D8 at 5th, level, D10 at 10th level, and D12 at 15th level. And next, starting at level 2, you can add half your proficiency bonus, rounded down, to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. This is probably one of the best abilities, especially in a game like D&D that is very roll heavy, because most people are like, oh, roll for that, roll for this, so because this applies to any ability check. That means all tools are considered ability checks.
Yeah.
Initiative is considered an ability check. So you get you get Jack of all trades to your initiative rolls.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I don't know, probably like a year or two ago. Like, yeah, it's like I'm like, okay, which I mean isn't a whole lot, but
it's something.
It's something, But I mean, it really is such a good. That's why the whole, at least 2 levels of Bard, 11 levels of Rogue, because 11 levels of Rogue, they have the reliable talent. So anytime that they roll something that they're proficient in, I think it's ability check specifically. If it's below 10, it's treated as a 10.
Yeah.
So with that, you're technically and that counts because you're technically proficient in it. You're just using half your proficiency. You're half proficient, but you're still proficient. So you still get it. So at that point, any skill check, any ability check you make, if you get below a 10, which means you can't. Well, crit failing only works on attack rolls anyway, as per the rules. But that is one way of a GM who tries to screw you over. Be like, no, according to reliable talent, I rolled a 10.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if I rolled a nat 1 on the die, because of this and that's one of those specific versus generic rules. Because the generic, even if we're ignoring the fact that it's not actually a fucking rule, but it's the generic. Anytime you roll a 1 on a roll, that's kind of a generic. Whereas this specifically,
its rules is written as rules of common like happenstance.
Well, there. I think it was in D&D. It might be one of the other things, but it's. I want to say it's in D&D too. It's generic rules or specific rules always supersede generic rules. Because if there's a thing that says you can't jump 20 feet straight into the air, but you have a class ability that lets you jump 20 feet straight into the air, like it's, that's their way of keeping it simple. It's like, no, you can't do that unless you're in this class.
Yeah.
Level 2 2 levels of Bard is probably one of the most effective 2-level dip in it. Maybe Warlock, but I also hate Warlocks. But 2 levels of Warlock is good because you get invocations. But beginning at 2nd level, you can use Soothing Music or Oration to help revitalize your wounded allies during a short rest. If you or any friendly creatures who can hear your performance regain hit points at the end of the short rest, each of these creatures, and this specifically says, a creature regains the extra hit points only if they spend 1 or more hit dice at the end of a short rest. So... And one of the things I roll is you roll as many, like you roll 1 die. Essentially, I let you roll until you're satisfied. I'm not like, pick them.
Yeah, like I don't know anyone who's ever said pick them.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, you pick now, and then it's the end. You roll. Like I let them, because that's definitely one of those things that you're not gonna sit there for 5 minutes and be like, still missing an arm. I feel fine. Like it's. Yeah. I didn't even think of that analogy before now, but like that's. You're not going to only take a 5-minute break if, you have a sword coming out of your neck. Anyway, at the end of the short rest, each of those creatures regains an extra 1d6 hit points, which isn't a whole lot, but that saves healing spells. And hit dice come back. I mean, as long as you're not using more than half of your hit dice during a short rest, like especially if you only take 1 short rest, like... this ability increases when you reach a certain level in this class, so to a D8 at 9th level, D10 at 13th level, and a D12 at 17th level. That's one of those.
This doesn't work on short rests. Like I don't think it says that it has a cap level. So depending on how you run short rests, you could do this pretty frequently.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, you run out of hit dice. And as far as I know, there is no limit to how many short rests you can take. There's specifically states you can only take 1 long rest within a 24-hour period. But I don't know if there's one with short rests. I mean, it'd also be like, you can't technically take a short rest, so you're not getting the benefits of a short rest. You're just waiting. That's like it's Skyrim or something. You're sleeping for 3 hours versus just waiting for 3 hours. Like it's not,
Yeah, isn't
not
it
quite the
like
same.
there's like a way for short rest and long rest where I think it's like a homebrew thing to call like the true resting period or something like that, where it's like a short rest is a week while a long rest is a month or some
Oh,
shit.
that's one of the like the additional rules I think in the DMG to like make it harder.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Imagine a long rest is a month. It's just like yeah, we're not going adventuring. We just started this thing
That
at
would be
level one.
so ridiculous.
Yeah, like that would suck.
Especially if like a short, because I don't remember what the, anyway, we're not going to get into that now. Bardic College, you get to choose your subclass at 3rd level. I think I think almost all of the Bard subclasses are good in their own way.
Yeah, it's very dependent on how you want to play.
I mean, we don't want to dip too much into talking about subclasses, but yeah, like they're like some of them overlap each other. Like I think the College of Swords and and then another one, College of Valor, like they kind of feel similar to each other, so that's a little weird. But
That's what I was thinking, honestly.
yeah, Valor and Swords feel very familiar to each other, but other than that, like I mean, they're all good at what they do. Like they're all the now the expertise at 3rd level, choose 2 of your skill proficiencies. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses either of those chosen proficiencies. At 10th level, you can choose another 2 skill proficiencies to gain this benefit. I mean, so this is once again is this see expertise is the thing that pisses me off because only 2 classes really get it as part of their main thing, and like expertise is, it's a skill that you've trained in for a long time, and like I get that, but how are wizards not gaining, like that's their whole thing, is that they're like they do this thing, like, or fighters, or like there should be rules, and I actually was coming up with them, but I got sidetracked and I never continued, but I was coming up with a way for people to gain expertise or proficiency. It's weird that like you can, I mean technically it's kind of left vague in I think Xanathar's, but it's their way of not saying yes you can do it, because there are feats that allow you to get skill proficiencies, but you can gain a language or a tool proficiency as part of, if you spend time with somebody training you.
Yeah, I was going to say,
but I can't learn how to hide or survive in the wilderness or know that that's a poisonous mushroom. Like that doesn't make any sense. Especially, it's even worse if there's characters that, I don't want to go on off of too much of a tirade about this, but like you have elves, you're 600 years old and you
magically don't have something.
Yeah, and you're a level 1 human wizard and a level 1 elven wizard, and even 100 or 110 and 20 years old. How have you gained no skills in that time? Or it gets go up to like 600 years. You're like, oh, I'm a 600-year-old wizard. That's only level 1. Like, how have you not done anything?
They just finally got out of their mom's basement.
It's because they were too busy eating mom's spaghetti.
It was really good. They were in the Feywild. There was no real point.
It's some really good spaghetti.
Exactly.
But yeah, expertise is a really good ability. That's why it's annoying that more people. I'm fine with not many classes getting expertise. I'm annoyed that not enough classes you can't really, as per rules. Like I said, they leave it vague up to the GM whether or not you can do it to learn a skill. But I'm proficient in. I would even allow it if you need expertise in the skill before you can teach somebody proficiency. Like, I would be fine with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes more sense. Good job, me.
Because you have to be able to teach someone effectively with something that you have expertise in, to where you can even teach someone who's just below you in training versus teaching from the very beginning as if they don't know what the heck you're talking about, like from any part of it.
Ability score improvement, 4th level, 8th level, 12th level, 16th level, and 19th level. Pretty much, I think, 90% of the classes, I think there's 14 classes. Of the 14 classes, we're going to do Witch, though, which I'm pretty excited about.
I've never seen the Witch class.
I know it's not an official class, but I have the book for it, and it's a really interesting class. There's 2 classes that get ability score improvements faster, and that's fighters and rogues, which I didn't realize until, because fighters get 7 total and rogues get 6.
I never noticed the rogue got more.
Rogues get 6 ability score improvements.
It's probably because I haven't played a rogue in like well over a year that I haven't noticed it.
All right. Font of Inspiration. Beginning when you reach 5th level, you regain all of your expended uses of Bardic Inspiration when you finish a short or long rest. Which is good. I mean, it's once again, that's definitely a thing that, use them or lose them type of thing. I mean, you don't lose them, but use them while you have them.
Yeah, there's no real...
Especially if you're like, we're trying to hide, like we're going to take a short rest, we're going to kind of try to hide in some bushes or whatever for the next hour, like, I give you Bardic Inspiration to set up a nice disguise for our camp, and I give you Bardic Inspiration, like, might as well, you're going to get them back. Yeah. I know that's kind of metagaming a little bit, but that's still...
Well, even then, it's
you
eventually as a bard would know that too.
Yeah, like, I'm saying it was like you could argue that like you're like, all right, I've gotten to the point where like I know enough and I know people enough that I can be like, hey, you're doing great. Type, I mean, or whatever.
Yeah, like there's a way to make it make sense. Like, yeah, it's a little bit strange, but honestly, it's like I don't even think a DM would be that pissed off at that level of metagame. It's like, yeah, sure, why not do it at that point where you're about to get it, because you're not going to use it very much. In that case, it's like, oh, we're about to take a short rest. Why not expend it,
Right.
Like, I wouldn't even think twice about that as really being a annoyance for metagaming.
I think I also missed out on the mentioning that Bardic Inspiration only lasts 10 minutes. I forgot to mention
that's what confused me, because I see several DMs who don't acknowledge that. Like, I've seen people who will have it for hours. It's like, remember that Bardic Inspiration you got 7 hours ago? And it's like, oh, yeah, I'll use it. I completely forgot that it's at 10 minutes.
Yeah. Level 6, Counter Charm. You gain the ability to use magical notes or words of power to disrupt mind-influencing effects. As an action, you can start a performance that lasts until the end of your next turn. During that time, you and any friendly creatures within 30 feet of you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. Any creature must be able to hear you to gain this benefit. The performance ends early if you are incapacitated or silenced, or if you voluntarily end it, no action required.
That's strange.
I like the fact that there is no limit to how many times you can use it.
I didn't even think about that. That is a good one.
Now that I'm looking at it.
It's kind of strange because, it says it doesn't require an action for you to stop, but I would figure, as someone who is a musician, guitars in the background, it's going to take you a hot second to actually put away your musical instrument and, say, draw your weapon.
Yes, but that's not the same thing. If you think about it. I mean, I know we're getting in a little bit too, into the weeds about it, but it's not quite, especially when you can cast spells with that guitar. So you don't necessarily you don't really need to put the guitar away to still be effective.
Yeah, you can.
So that's, if you think about it, you're like, fuck you can't mind control me, bitches.
I'm just thinking of Jack Black.
I was literally just thinking that. I was like, I'm sounding very much like Jack Black in spirit, obviously not in singing. Motherfucker! But yeah, like, exactly, like, especially if you're talented enough.
To just cast, like,
or words.
Hand or something.
You're like, fuck you, no. No, don't touch me there. This is our no square. Like, and then, but, you could be doing that, and then you could switch to, when I was a young warthog, and now,
when I was
you cast Shatter, a young boy. And when you cast Shatter, Shatter! Magical Secrets. By 10th level, you have plundered magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. Choose 2 spells from any class, including this one. A spell you choose must be of a level you can cast, as shown on the Bard table or a cantrip. The chosen spells count as Bard spells for you, and are included in the number of spells known column of the Bard table. You learn 2 additional spells from any class at 14th and 18th level.
Fireball.
They already get Fireball.
They already do?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, but at 14th,
I didn't realize I got Fireball.
Like everybody gets Fireball.
I only thought that was a wizard sorcerer thing. Also, I've barely played any spellcasters, as you can tell.
Right. I mean, I think one of my favorite ones, though, is using Wish and using the first thing of Wish, casting... there's a level 8 cleric spell. I cannot remember what it's called, but essentially it creates, like, a region, a 40,000 square foot region of like whatever, and you can choose what is allowed in there, and like you can choose to like exclude like undead, fae, demon, or fiends, because like there's like a list, angels, I think, or
really piss off
and,
a soul layer.
right, and anything that is in that area, because it's 40,000 around or square, because it's square by 30 feet, which is the weird thing. But if any of them, you can't teleport into or out of that area. And the other thing is that if they're in the area, they take like 3d10 damage per round.
Jeez.
And if you can, you have to cast, and like it requires certain components or whatever. But if you cast it every day for a year or whatever, it becomes permanent. So just go to one of the levels of hell and just like, or not hell, the the chaos wastes or whatever it is, the abyss, and just like.
And that's when Gratz shows up, taking 3d10 damage, but he's a masochist a little bit. He's just like, I like you. I like you a lot.
Okay.
Then we can do this the easy way or the hard way.
We're doing this the hard way. Force cage around myself. Fuck you.
And that's when everything in that layer of hell or not hell, the abyss tries to come to you.
Yeah, sure. Come to me. Come to me. Guess what doesn't happen? Force cage can't be broken. Lasts an hour.
And they're dying.
Yeah, so like, and permanently, because if they die in the abyss, they die in real life.
It's really good. I actually didn't realize that until about 6 months ago, because I swear I read it that demons keep regenerating for some reason if they die in the abyss. I don't know why I thought that, but for some reason, that's how I thought it was.
I mean, it's the same thing with devils in hell.
Yeah, I knew about the devils.
Which makes the fights holding Avernus way more important. Because they're losing like real soldiers, like they're because they die in like the material plane or the plane of fire, or they fight in the abyss. Like
they'll come back, but it's super weird because you don't really hear about how fights are placed in the abyss. You really only hear about it in Avernus. So it's very weird because like there's demons dying consistently there, getting regenerated, and then the devils that die, they're just dead. It's just like shit. But somehow they keep the eternal freaking war, the blood war, continuing. So
yeah, see, that's why I want to go into the abyss and cast that spell, because that'll make a big difference.
Yep, and then the devils win.
They need to win.
Out of the demons versus devils, the devils would be much preferable,
because they have to follow the rules. They can bend and manipulate, but they cannot outright break them.
Yep.
And it's one of those things that if you get over, like you find a loophole in a contract,
you have fun finding that loophole.
They're pissed, but they respect it. Like they're probably gonna want to kill you, but they're like, he found a way out. She found a way out. Like we legally, you're clear. Your soul, you get your soul back. Like there's nothing we can do about it. That's actually why it's such a big deal that if you destroy the book in Descent into Avernus, you free everybody's soul in that city. Because like that's
what's funny is that I don't know what you're talking about. I've only played like into the bath section when you go underneath the bathhouse. I've only cleared that part.
Spoilers? It's a garbage fucking module.
I don't know what you're talking about, so there's no real spoilers unless you read the book.
I did read the book. That's how I know.
Yeah, well, obviously.
I know you meant you. Anyway, Superior Inspiration. At 20th level, when you roll initiative and have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you regain 1 use. Which, isn't super big, but depending on what class you're or what subclass, it's still pretty good. Plus, that's still at 20th level. That's an additional D12. That's an additional D12. So, and at that level, that can make or break. So, yeah. Like I said, in the last video, I hate that people play bards the exact same. Although I haven't seen a whole lot of games where people playing bards, so I could be wrong. But it's just irritating that everybody plays bards the same. I mean, that's the funny thing about, which I didn't even realize until now I'm thinking about that, I'm wearing the shirt, that Emily from Dimension 20, she plays a bard in... actually, none of the people on Dimension 20 play the bard class like, the traipsing whore of Babylon. Emily's character is kind of just like a punk rocker who's edgy because she's a tiefling, and then in Unsleeping City, one of the characters is playing a bard, but she's playing like a fae essentially that's been around for hundreds of years, and this is just her form currently, and like it's a whole thing. So she's playing it more like haha, look at me, I am a Broadway musician. Whoa. Like, and they're definitely not falling into that, like, maybe it's because, you know, the outright sex stuff might make some of the people uncomfortable, but it's nice to see bards not being just horn dogs all the goddamn time.
It makes me think of the guy on TikTok who did the Class D, like the D-list actors acting like, you don't know me? How do you not know me? Have you seen this movie that like literally no one fucking cares about and no one's watched? It's like, I was this person in this stupid, like terrible like horror movie that had a budget of $2 and probably only was seen by one person other than them that was in the cast. And it's just like, that's how I imagine like first level bards to be, all the way up until like 10th level. They're like, how do you not know me? I am this person. And it's just like, I enjoy seeing bards who know who they are, know their skill, and eventually become to that status, right, to where they're known, and then they're just like, God, I hate being able to just go outside and people just recognize me.
It could be, see, that's the thing, is that could be argued with for any of the classes. When you get big enough, especially if you're, I mean, people see bards as more showy, so that's why it makes a lot more sense, but like any character who gets to high enough level should be a bigger deal, especially if you're doing stuff like in places like, you know, you're we just saved this city, like they're like, oh cool, and then nobody knows who. You're like, oh,
this isn't Skyrim,
right? Oh, me? Oh, I'm the hero of Waterdeep. Like people would know. That's actually one of the reasons I still like at least that aspect of the Forgotten Realms. There's a lot of fucking problems with the Forgotten Realms, but that's one of the reasons I like the Forgotten Realms so much, is because all of the novels based in there, there are celebrities already from all of those books set in the setting. So like you have a plethora of people that you could be like running around. You're like, oh, you see a dark elf with a dwarf and a human and a bigger human and like and a halfling. You're like, oh shit, that's the companions of the hall. Fuck, that's Brunner, that's, you know, Dritz, that's, you know, Canterbury. Like you're like, holy shit, like. So, I mean, that's one of the cool things. You're like, you read about these characters, and then you could play, like, you know, it'd be the same thing with Roll20 or Critical Role.
Yeah, like they were in the first campaign.
My character in my brother's game that was taking place in whatever the second book is about. My brain can't remember. But we're in we're in the Nicodranus, and so we're like. It's like, oh, go talk to. There's this person in this like classy brothel essentially. Like, go in there and talk to her, and she has like this magic ink that I want, and I'm like, okay. And this is my 6'8" dragonborn that's, you know, pseudo undead, and I'm like, okay. And like I go in and I'm like, yeah, I'm here to see, you know, Jester. Like okay. And I go in and like she's like drawing dicks on the floor or something, and I'm like, hey. Can I have some of your ink? Like, my brother's like, no, they're like, so one of the other players is like, you're just gonna fucking just outright ask her? I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Like, I don't understand. He's like, okay, fuck it, we'll see how this pans out. And then, like, I rolled, like, a persuasion check or whatever, and essentially my brother had it in such a way that if we tried anything except directly asking her, like, we would get in trouble. Like, if we tried stealing it from her and got caught, we'd get in fucking trouble. Like, but she would, if somebody just outright asked her, she would give it to them.
That's probably how like, after seeing a good bit up, I think like upwards to like episode 30 or 40, in between that, of the second Critical Role campaign for Wildmount.
There it is.
That's how Jester kind of would be. Like, Jester, it's like, if you asked her, she'd probably give it to you. Like, she's a very giving character from what I have seen. So if you were like, hey, can I have some of your magical ink? She'd probably be like, oh, sure. And here's pastries that are like 85 days old out of a random fucking pocket of hers. But,
right. But yeah, that's the cool thing. It's like, it's running into a character, like, you know, a famous character. So it's like running, you know, like, I don't live in LA, but I'm sure going to LA and running into, you know, Ryan Reynolds or...
Dude, it's actually, this is a perfect story. I got to run into a death metal musician.
Yeah, I saw that on your I think your
My TikTok.
Yeah.
Where I got to meet George Fisher of Corpse Grinder, and I was just at work, and I was just like, I turned around, and I was like, that looks like Corpse Grinder. Turned back around, looked over again. I was like, that really looks like Corpse Grinder. And like, I had to wait till he got out of Spirit Halloween. I approached him. I was like, hey, are you Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse? He goes, yes. And I was like, holy shit. And I fucking lost my shit. But like, I didn't, like go up to him and be like a dickhead about it. But I was like, holy shit. And apparently his wife was like, yeah, you just saved him from like a bunch of teenagers. And like, I ended up going into the hot topic where these teenagers came from. They don't know who the fuck he was. Like, not a single one of them knew who he was. They just heard that he was famous from the one person who recognized him in the Hot Topic and then followed him. And it's like, they were like, yeah, we don't know who he is, but like, we just followed him because he was famous. I was like, that's stupid, kind of. Like, I didn't like that because it's like, I actually listen to this guy's music. Like, I understand the gravity of why he's famous versus, oh, he's famous, I'm going to be around him. So I guess it's like bias, I guess. But yeah, that's a real life circumstance where I had that.
Right. And so yeah, exactly. So it's that's one of the things that, like, it makes sense that a bard would be more likely to become famous because of their specific
niche
performance, whatever it is, which is cool. I mean, we're supposed to
like it.
I don't hate bards. I just figure, why not just play a fucking wizard? In my,
I don't hate bards. I just would like to see them more of the, I'm not going to fuck everything. Like, I find the joke funny on occasion, but if you're legitimately like, oh, I'm just, my entire thing is to basically rip off every other bard.
It would be so funny if you played in a game as a bard and you did it ironically, but then it became like, when you start, like, I started using like yeet ironically, and then it just... And
then it becomes an actual issue.
Yeah, it just becomes part of my actual vocabulary. I'm like, well, fuck it. Like, but it, it would be funnier that way if you're like, oh, I'm just gonna go fuck him.
And then it's really like,
yeah, sure, I'll do it. And like, but like, you just like, you're nonchalant about it, but like, then they're like, oh, that guy fucks anything. And be like, well, shit, I do. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's like, you're level 15. It's been like 4 years in game, and then you go up to this random like place that you forget about, and then this princess comes up, and it's like, your son. And it's like, how the fuck do you know me? And it's like, you visited this place like 2 years ago. You and I obviously have a son. It's like, Dimension Door.
Wait, 2 more levels. 2 more levels, and then wish. No.
I wish I wasn't here.
And now you're dead.
Different plane ship.
Yeah. That's we're not going to get into that with use of wish spells. That's just going to. I hate how people screw over players with wish spells.
What's funny is that I've only used wish spells in my campaign once, and it wasn't used to fuck anyone over.
I like that I don't want to sidetrack too much, but I like the fact that they made a specific generic use for wish spells that there's actually 2 specifically that the GM can't screw you over with. Like, because it's bullshit. It's because there's the one that allows you to cast any spell from any class of 8th level or lower. And then there's another one that like allows you to do like effects, so, like they're permanent effects. Like, oh, you can wish for yourself to be immune to force damage, and then you just have to roll or something, and if you fail, you can't cast the wish spell anymore. Like so there's negatives to doing it, but like there's a all-purpose use, and then there's a more specific use, and then there's just the kind of question mark use. I wish for, what do you want to fucking wish for that's not already covered in this? Like, because
I wish for immortality turns into stone forever.
Right, and that's a adamantium specifically because that's more indestructible. But that's one of the things that you're not screwing. It allows you to, because it's bullshit in a grognard mentality that you get to level 17, you get the wish spell, you cast wish once, the GM fucks you over, and now you die.
Yeah.
You're like, what? Why? I earned this fucking spell.
What's funny is that
especially in older editions, you're like second edition, you're like, I got to high enough to cast the fucking wish spell.
I think it would be really interesting, like if you make a campaign, like homebrew or something like that, where your character who has a wish spell, eventually, down the line, they wish for immortality, right? And they're immortal, like they're not turned to stone or anything or adamantine or anything bad, but like they eventually start like doing more and more insane things to like entertain themselves because they're immortal, dude. Like I'm imagining this is thousands of years down the road, and they're not necessarily a lich because that inquires a whole different thing, but they're just basically a big like the BBEG, and they're like of the new campaign that you're starting, and your character's party
Yeah, that would be funny.
his
Yeah.
entire thing is to stop this one dude who literally was just like a bard who was like, I want to be immortal. I want to play like shows. I want to be famous all the time. And I was just like, I just really want to
Keith Richards. I got you. My brother actually in a game because he wanted to be immortal. Or no, he wanted to stop aging. But essentially he can't, if he is ever turned to an undead, like his soul is destroyed utterly. So it's like it's a way of like
mitigating.
Yeah, like it's one of the things like he and the GM worked on is like I don't want to age because I'm a human. I'll die of old age way sooner than most of the other races that I travel with. Like he's like okay, yeah, like so they kind of worked with it, and that's one of the things. Anyway, we sidetracked.
That's actually really cool, like to go about it.
We can do a whole interesting use of spells.
Yeah, for later videos. That should be it for the Bard, right?
Yeah, we've covered Bard. Probably
Awesome.
actually cut out probably the last like 5 minutes of the video.
It depends.
Because I mean, it's just us discussing the wish spell.
True. We could actually use that as its own video if you want.
That's true. Nah, we'll do. I'll probably just leave this all in because I'm lazy. Honestly, not.
That's fine. I don't mind.
I accidentally left the beginning in last time.
What's funny is that I haven't even gotten to watch that one yet. I'm still trying to finish the last one that I'm on, but like I haven't been on YouTube all that much.
All right,
like I recorded for YouTube, and then that's like the last I've been on it.
All right, we'll end this, and then we can continue this conversation. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something about bards, or thought new things about bards that you didn't think before, much like me with barbarians, and grappling people off of cliffs. I'm Kalvin.
I'm Brandon.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment. And now you get to listen to the outro song. And that's the outro song. Yeah.